All right, how's it going, guys? This is just an update for the demon form, Hexblast, and now Cast on Ignite extension to that build. This build really only does better in single target compared to the normal like mapping variety that I have on the Mobalytics page. Currently, there is another high budget variant on the page that is not running Incinerate and stuff. That is an attempt at just Hexblast for Ignite. I don't think that's very good. I think that will be rebuilt into this, essentially. The issue with using Hexblast only as our Cast on Ignite source is it does so much damage. It sounds like this is like a first world problem, right? Demon Form gives us so much damage that on every Hexblast, you completely fulfill the Cast on Ignite requirement, right? So it goes from 0%, it goes to 100, it casts Comet, and then it resets back to 0. And that's on every cast. What's likely happening is we're doing so much damage that we're going way above the requirement for Cast on Ignite to go off, right? So if we're doing 300% of what we need to, it doesn't matter. You still only get one Cast on Ignite proc per cast. So to fix that, the goal here is to choose a different spell. And I think the best spell for this would probably be Incinerate. I just did a T4 Xesht in the Twisted Domain here. Using Incinerate. Pretty straightforward how you kill bosses, right? You throw a ball of lightning as the boss is spawning, and then Eye of Winter, and then you Contagion. And then you just start incinerating. It might be worth the Hexblast once or twice just to get the Chaotic Freeze on Contagion. And then start incinerating so you don't have to worry about mechanics. But if you just incinerate, he'll freeze relatively quickly. And the more damage you do, the faster he'll freeze anyway. But yeah, that's the whole strat. My gear is not very good in my like link. I don't even have like 6 links. I have 2 6 links. Incinerate's not 6 linked. The only thing that's 6 linked is Cast on Ignite and Hexblast. The issue we're running into with a build like this is we're now essentially trying to support three damaging spells, which is very much going into the territory of there are not enough supports for this. Perhaps when Chieftain comes out or whatever, we'll get some more supports for like an Incinerate type spell. But we are definitely running out of supports to make this work. Cast on Ignite is Comet, Cold Mastery, Spell Echo, Considered Casting, and Impetus. Considered Casting has no downside on a Cast on Ignite. The less cast speed doesn't do anything. So this is just free damage. Impetus is just to help our Incinerate. You could run Energy Reservation instead of, I don't know, like Cold Mastery or something, which is actually what I was doing in that Xesht fight. But it does not feel like it's worth it. I think it's better just for Comet to do more damage. Incinerate's running Concentrated Effect, Controlled Destruction, Searing Flame, and Eternal Flame. You don't need to run Ignition and Incinerate because Incinerate has a 100% Ignite, right? It always ignites whatever you're casting it on. So this does nothing. I have it on Hexblast because we don't have enough supports. I put Inspiration back on Hexblast because I wasn't running this for a while. This honestly just makes the build feel a lot better in mapping. You're doing a lot less damage to yourself when you overflow your Infernal Flame because you're doing it a lot less often. But other than that, like, there's no real damage on here. We have Extraction, which is something, and Chaos Mastery, which is something. But I don't have a single more support gem on Hexblast, which means at lower stacks of Demon Flame, you're definitely going to feel Hexblast doing a lot less damage. But we're kind of stuck. There is Minion Pact. You could put Minion Pact on Hexblast over like Chaos Mastery or Extraction. But the only source for Minion Pact to feed off of is our dog. And our dog already dies a lot as is. So this will only give you damage if your dog's alive. And we cast Hexblast all the time, so we're just doing 200 damage to our dog constantly. He has a lot of life, so it's not a huge deal. But, yeah. We have Last Gasp on here. This is actually, I think, pretty much mandatory for any build that uses your dog. The thing with Last Gasp is as soon as your dog enters the Last Gasp state, right? As soon as it reaches 0 HP, the respawn timer starts. Even though your dog is still there, he still exists. I assume he's still taking damage for us too during that time. You won't be able to minion pact, I don't think, from a 0 HP dog, if I were to guess. Because you don't have the life nearby. He doesn't have the life for you to drain. Yes, he only takes effect if you have a minion with enough life to drain full amount. So, this is why I don't think minion pack's super great. I might end up putting it on Comet or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think Last Gasp is pretty much mandatory for your dog, for any build that uses a dog. And then I have Fiery Death, which should work for anything that's near your dog when it dies. Calling is good because your dog can just kill stuff, kill uniques for you. Meat Shield. And then Elemental Army. You don't have to run Meat Shield for sure. It's not at all required for this build. If you're trying to save on the 5 strength that you need to allocate it. Demon Form, I still have the same Ingenuity and Second Wind. You don't need Ingenuity on here, realistically. I just have it still because who cares. For Contagion, you don't need this Expanse gem on here. It doesn't cost me anything just to leave it. It does put a cooldown on Contagion, but you don't need Persistence either. You really just need Chaotic Freeze here, and then you can freeze boss mobs with chaos damage, which is pretty significant. Solar Orb, ignore this. Like I said, I put this on for Solar Orb. I put this on like 15 seconds before starting this recording as like a maybe I can use Solar Orb to get more cast on Ignite proc. So this is a work in progress. I have winner. It was Withering Touch, Unleash, Cold Exposure, and Strip Away. In the tree, we're taking a bunch of Cold Pen to make up the gap to get the 75% resistance reduction we need for bosses. You could, instead of running Glaciation, you could run Hypothermia instead of if you know you're going into a pinnacle boss, right? If you want to take the time out of... What am I doing? If you want to take your time out of... just to prepare a little bit, instead of running Despair, just run Hypothermia, and you don't have to take Glaciation. But I'm lazy, so... I left it in like that. And then... Yeah, so for Hexblast... Tempo... Extraction, Ignition, Inspiration, and Chaos Mastery. Like I said earlier, there's not a lot of... there's really not a lot of support gems, right? We're really stretched thin with this many active spells. Blasphemy is your curse, whether it be Despair or Hypothermia. Ritualistic and Magnified. You only need 44 Spirit to run this build. So I have 160 because I have a really big solar amulet that gives me a shitload of spirit. So with the extra spirit, I'm running Herbalism just so my flask heals my energy shield a little more. You do not need this. This is not required at all. Without a solar amulet, I think it's actually impossible to run this. The most you could probably get is like 50 or something. So you need this. You need a solar amulet to run Herbalism, but you don't need it. It's completely luxury. It's just something I have because I have 60 spirit on my solar amulet. Incinerate, concentrated effect, controlled destruction, searing flame, and internal flame. I guess now's a good time to talk about how Cast on Ignite works. Cast on Ignite gains energy based on how much of the enemy's ailment threshold you do on the Ignite. And that's not actual damage that the Ignite is doing. It looks at the damage the Ignite is going to do, like based on tooltips and stuff like that. And then it puts that against the percentage of the enemy's ailment threshold. Most of the bosses, or all the bosses that I've seen in the database, don't have an ailment threshold yet. It's blank. So we don't know what the boss's ailment threshold is. But because of how this gains energy, we want our ignites to be on tooltip as big as possible. We don't actually care how much damage it does, so we don't do anything about the enemy's fire resistance. We just let it be at 75 because ignite's kind of bad anyway. So we ignore that whole thing. And we just try to get our tooltip ignites to be as big as possible. And because Incinerate always ignites, we just go magnitude and duration, right? Because it looks at the entire damage of the ignite and what it will do. When does it say it? Energy per power of enemies you ignite with hits from skills modified by the percentage the enemy's ailment threshold the ignite will deal. Like, the whole ignite mechanic is super convoluted and it makes no sense and it's very bad, but yeah, it's just about how much tooltip damage the ignite's going to do to the mob. It doesn't matter how much it actually does. That's what you need to take away from all this. So we just want to do as much ignite damage as possible. This Searing Flame support gem here is, I don't know how it works with Incinerate, but your ignite does more damage the more damage your hit does, right? So this 75% more magnitude of ignite is anti-synergistic with the less damage from hits that its own gem applies. These two stats on this gem work against each other. So it's kind of a weird gem, but it should result in a higher ignite, especially on Incinerate. And then this is just ignite duration, because Incinerate always ignites. The less ignite doesn't do anything. It's just a beneficial gem for this. Controlled destruction is hits and ailments. Incinerate can't crit anyway, so this is just a good thing. And then concentrated effect is just more damage. This should work. It changes the tooltip damage and whatnot, so it should work. Ball lightning, this is just one of our debuff spells. Same with Eye of Winter. The way Eye of Winter also gives critical weakness, which makes our comets have a higher chance to crit. We're not building into crit at all. If we get a crit, cool. If we don't, fine, whatever. We're not building into it. If it happens, it happens. Anyway, but ball lightning, scatter shot, so you throw 3 orbs, and then conduction for more shock, deceleration so they don't move as much, and then overcharge to get bigger shock. This last one would be, I think, Stormfire, which would make the shock never expire as long as the mob's ignited. And the mob should pretty much always be ignited unless it were to go go invulnerable for a large period of time or something. So that shouldn't be an issue, but that would be actually a pretty decent 6-link. But it wouldn't really help for much other than just keeping shock on the boss at all time. And then Castle and Ignite is Comet, Cold Mastery, Spell Echo, Consider Casting, and Impetus. But that is our whole skill setup. For the tree, it's actually not a ton different than the non-Ignite version. We go over here and we get Fireproof. I still have Royal. You don't need Royal or this Reverberation. This is just because I have the extra skill points. Likely you'll be going down to Prism Guard until you get your 7 rubies that give you 2% max fire resist. But yeah, everything else. I already touched on the Cold Pen. I think it's pretty straightforward. I don't know if this is worth it. Just a heads up. These 5 points. They might be better spent somewhere else. Maybe getting more energy shield or something. I'm not entirely sure. But you could see from the boss kill, the build works. The build definitely works. You can still do T18s just fine. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, that's the update. I guess I'll show you my gear, right? My gear is bad. My best is my 61% Ghost Ride. These are corrupted, but they're both corrupted to have no effect. They're the same. My amulet, my boots. My boots are okay. The life regen's a little low. Would be better to be higher, but the resist rolls on it are good. Be nice to have mana. My belt needs to be upgraded realistically, and my gloves are god awful. Absolutely atrocious. If you're playing Pyromantic Pact, you should get this. What is it? Vitilating or vitiating? Vitiating? I don't know what the hell that word is. the one that removes mana when you use the flask because you don't have mana. So the downside of this doesn't do anything. You just get more life. It's great. And then your mana flask doesn't matter if you're playing Pyromantic. But yeah, that's the build right now. It's still a work in progress, but I think this is better than running Hexblast, trying to ignite off Hexblast. Incinerate should just be better, especially as I improve it. And if the solar orb thing works out, we'll see. But the build's still a work in progress. I'll give another update, you know, soon, eventually. That's it for now. Thanks everybody for watching. Good luck out there. Have fun playing Demon Form. If you have any questions, you know, post them in the comment. And see you later.